Hello, this is Brian Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and today I want to talk to you about a subject that is kind of occupying the shadows of the American economy these days, and that is the business of medicine. Now, my guest on the show today is Mr. Ben Franklin on the $100 bill. And I bet Ben Franklin is pretty proud to be on a $100 bill, but I bet he wouldn't be too happy with some of what's going on in modern times. And in the American economy, capitalism is basically a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it creates tremendous incentive to investigate new treatments and come up with breakthrough discoveries because a lot of money can be made. But on the other hand, it also creates incentive to treat patients like they're basically just another cog in the machine of profit. And while this is okay in some industries, it's not okay in medicine because a person's health is really very important. And there are some treatments out there that really don't make any money, but doctors often don't talk about them and research companies often don't investigate them simply because they're basically in it for a buck, as Mr. Ben Franklin will tell you. Now, a couple examples of treatments that are basically profit-driven are appointments with general practitioners, also known as GPs. When you go to see your general practitioner, your normal family physician, it's essentially a business. You walk in the door, you wait a little while, you get about 15 or 20 minutes with the doctor, and they generally write you a prescription. Now, that might seem sort of innocent on face value, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find quite a few business activities happening. First of all, doctors don't really have time to spend 2, 3, 4 hours with you and really get to the bottom of your problems because that's just not profitable. They have too many other patients that they have to see to pay for their overhead and to pay for their equipment and their lease and that type of thing. Additionally, the prescription that they write you is usually going to be for a drug, an antibiotic or a cholesterol drug or that type of thing. Now, as you probably already know, the drug companies occupy one of the biggest industries in the world, bringing in over $10 billion in profit, bottom line profit per year. Now, there are a lot of profitable aspects to drugs. Drugs can only be taken one time. Once you run out, you have to go buy more. Drugs are very easily patentable. Drugs can only be used for one person, so you can't share them with your mother or your brother. And also, drugs are very difficult to duplicate. You can't make your own drugs at home, so they really do have a monopoly. Now, if you're okay with being used as a business guinea pig and having all your Benjamins sucked right out of your bank account, then go ahead and follow that paradigm of medicine. However, if you're more concerned with your health and less concerned with being a profit-making tool for the industry, then you might want to investigate some alternatives. And rife machines are one of those alternatives. Rife machines really don't hold that much profit for the medical industry, and that's why they haven't really done many studies on them. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say that rife machines are quackery or they're snake oil and that there are no studies to back them up. Well, when you talk about what a study is, the medical industry considers the only valid studies to be those that are placebo-controlled, double-blind studies that cost millions of dollars. And of course there are none of those studies because nobody's going to put up the millions of dollars to prove that a non-profitable treatment actually works. So naturally there aren't any studies. However, there's a whole group of people using rife machines and finding them to be very valuable. Now, I'm not saying that rife machines are better in any way than pharmaceutical drugs. That's just not true. There's a time and a place for each. There's plenty of times when pharmaceutical drugs are absolutely the way to go. Pharmaceutical drugs have saved millions of lives, and I'm not arguing with that. All I'm saying is that your attention as a consumer, where you direct your focus, let's say, has been very distorted and biased by the advertising and the dogma that's put in front of your face every day by the medical industry, and they basically do that to make a profit. So I'm trying to put something different in front of your face and say, look, yeah, you need to take your drugs sometimes, but there's also times when you need to look outside of the business-driven economy and find other treatments that might help you out. Now, there's been a new twist recently, and that is that the government is not just ignoring treatments like rife machines, they're actually persecuting rife manufacturers and anybody that really even advocates or talks about rife machines. There's been a whole lot of talk of banning rife machines. There have been rife manufacturers that have been raided, and there's quite a bit of negative attention that rife machines are getting now. Now, the really nice thing about rife machine therapy is that the government can never really take it away from us, and that's because a lot of the parts and a lot of the um, properties of rife machine therapy are things that are used in other industries, so they can't take it away. And I'll give you an example. I have a machine called the coil machine, also known as the Doug device, and pretty much every single part in that machine can be purchased at an electronics supply store or at a construction store like Home Depot. So the only way they're really going to be able to take a coil machine away from the public is if they ban things like amplifiers and 12-gauge wire and amp meters and that type of thing. And that's just not going to happen. That would shut the economy down. So I don't think we have to worry about that. So I think that it's important for us to always keep in mind whether or not the medical industry is trying to pull the wool over our eyes or if they're really telling us the truth. And I think as Americans or as anybody in the world, we have the right to know about all of our options, not just those that drive a profit. And call me old-fashioned, but I believe in American independence and I believe in our ability to think for ourselves. And I don't really want my government telling me what to use and what not to use and basically what they approve of and what they don't. I would like to be able to make those decisions for myself. Something I would like to add also is that there's never been a more important time to hear this message, and I'll tell you why. Recently, Lyme disease sufferers are being persecuted and belittled and told that they are basically suffering from hypochondria and phobias. There have been a number of highly respectable journals and organizations lately that completely denounce the existence of chronic Lyme disease. The New England Journal of Medicine in late 2007 came out with an article that basically said the chronic Lyme disease doesn't exist. And shortly before that, about 6 months before that, the IDSA, which is the Infectious Disease Association of America, came out with a similar statement. Now, in my newest book called the 2008 Lyme Disease Annual Report, available from limebook.com, I talk about this and I present a letter by a New York physician who spends a lot of time really looking behind the scenes of why these organizations would go in that direction. Additionally, there have been several Lyme disease sufferers who have actually been denied insurance coverage and denied the treatments that they need, and also some Lyme disease doctors that have been barred from practicing medicine and told that they will never be able to treat chronic Lyme disease again. So not only would it be to your advantage to look into being an independent patient so that your money isn't sucked out of your bank account, but there's another reason too, and that is that the medical industry, if you have chronic Lyme disease, isn't really going to look out for you, and they're not really going to help you very much. So the second benefit, as I've already described, of looking into these kinds of alternative treatments like rife machines, it's not just to save money, it's also because it might be your only option. And as the doctors who are treating chronic Lyme disease seem to be disappearing and the government seems to be closing in more and more on this type of activity, you really have everything to gain and nothing to lose by looking into chronic Lyme disease treatment alternatives. So I'm Brian Rosner with Biomed Publishing Group, and one of my goals is to help you hang on to your money and, just basically have a good idea of what your treatment options are. Please keep in mind that I am a journalist, not a medical professional, and this video blog post basically just presents my opinions and my research that I found. It's not any kind of official information, and it's not for medical advice, so it's just for educational and entertainment purposes only. We'll see you next time. Thanks.